Hey everybody, it's my 55-gallon tank. I just popped in to turn the lights off actually. Hadn't really had time to get any video shot tonight, so I was hoping somebody interesting would be out and about and I'd be able to get a little bit of video of somebody. And lo and behold, there is my high-fin spotted pleco. If you look at that piece of wood in front of the tank with the markings on it, those are 1-inch graduations. So we're looking at about 8 inches plus the tail, somewhere in that neighborhood. If you want to pause it or have a better look, I'm trying to look at the fish and hold the camera and think about what I'm saying, so I'm not going to try to count at the same time. That's a little more complicated than walking and chewing gum. So there are my beloved diamond tetras. That is not under the light of the bright LED that shines on my waterfall that makes them look so spectacular. That is actually just the shop light. It is an LED, but it's just a basic shop light. There's nothing special about it. It's not a particularly high quality lighting. It's a large amount of lighting. It's a high, volume of lighting. It's very bright, but it's not a particularly high quality lighting. And yet they still sparkle like that. Haven't noticed any spawning behavior out of them recently. I'm hoping to see some more fry showing up here in the tank. Got a few more sitting out here. So they're typically fairly active fish, but at times they can be pretty chilled out and just kind of hang out looking gorgeous. But even then, they're still fairly active. You can see they're sort of moving around the tank. And I'm kind of surprised they're as spread out as they are. They usually pack together fairly tightly in one school rather than grouping into little clumps like this. We've got this group over here, and then we've got this sort of sectioned off group over here in the middle. Absolutely stunning fish. Love my diamond tetras. So let's have a look over here. I know my spotted tilapia was out not too long ago. I looked over and noticed that the tilapia was actually sort of harassing the angelfish. So I know the tilapia harasses the pleco all the time. I actually used to think it was the pleco that went and bothered the tilapia, and I guess in a sense it kind of does. It doesn't really have to come down this end of the tank. It could spend more of its time down that end of the tank. But it really does just mind its own business. It seems to be the tilapia that looks for it and harasses it and bothers it, even when it gets down, hangs on the glass down more towards the center of the tank. I'll still see that tilapia will go down there and bother it. So you can see it's on the back glass right now. That's the same type, in theory, that's the same type that we were just looking at in my 55-gallon tank. That is the high-fin spotted pleco that I got from PetSmart. Of course, this tank has those awesome silver dollars in it, and they're just growing so fast and getting so big. I'm really, really happy with them. Angelfish is still looking amazing. And my white suckerfish that you can see under the piece of wood right there is getting a little bit on the large side. I'm really going to need to get around to getting in there and getting him out. And these two creek chubs right here, those two sort of larger fish that kind of stand out, they need to come out of the tank. And once they're all out, the tank will be pretty much done. I can't imagine anything else that I'm going to add to this tank, with the exception... Oh, there's my spotted tilapia. She is beautiful. Absolutely gorgeous fish. She's been coming out a lot more lately, and I think it might have to do with all of that. It really does prevent a lot of the light from getting into the tank. And then, of course, I've got that big piece of wood right there that creates that fairly large cave. And that cave actually does go all the way through. If you swam up one end, you could actually come right out the other end if you were a small enough fish. I know the tilapia wouldn't be able to fit through there, neither would the angelfish, but those minnows Easily could. Even those creek chubs could swim right through there. Possibly my big shiner down there might be able to wiggle its way through, but that would be about the upper limit of how large the opening at the other end is. But it still makes for interesting habitat for the fish. It gives them places to hide and things to do, and visually, of course, it's fantastic. I absolutely love that big piece of wood. The day I found it, as soon as I set eyes on it, I knew I was in love with it, and I was right. It's awesome. I'm really, really happy I took the time to get out there and get it and drag it back here and waterlog it and sink it in the tank and everything else. So my purple spotted gudgeon tank here is just kind of doing its thing. Let's see, there's the gudgeon right there. Can't really see him with the glare on the surface of the water, but it's right there under the surface. Now, this is what I was talking about before in a recent video. See how stagnant the surface looks? It really does look like it's a oxygen poor environment with low circulation, and it's just not. I've got that filter right there moving all of that water, and of course, because of the vegetation that actually prevents the surface from moving around, that little bit of skim, you know, that little biofilm builds up, and of course I got all the floating bits on there, and it just sits there not moving. But underneath, the water is certainly flowing and swirling around. I've got a 240 gallon per hour power head in the back right there that actually moves enough water that it's cleared the sand away on the bottom. I had to put a rock for the, you know, just so it wasn't, you know, bare glass on the bottom back there. So plenty of water circulation, plenty of water movement around the tank. But with all of that vegetation, it's probably not as much as I would like. So one of these days I am going to have to get in there, get that cleaned out or whatever. Of course, my Hygrophila here is just growing out of control. I moved the light up as high as I can move it. I guess I could squeak it up a little bit more, but I'm already to where it's right under the light again. So what I'm probably going to have to do is cut it down here somewhere, and maybe even, you know, cut here and cut here and cut here, and just really give this thing a haircut, give it the old whackety chop. And once I do that, every one of these little sets of nodes will start growing, two here, two here, two here, and that will go from being huge and bushy to being really compact but rapidly growing and spreading. This I mean, they call it swampweed for a reason. You give it the right conditions, plenty of light and good nutrients, and it just grows like crazy. So I don't know what I'm going to do about it. I'm just going to let it keep growing until I have to worry about it. At the moment, it's fine. But it also really sucks the light out of this tank. When I first hung that light over here, I know a lot of people thought that that was a lot of light shining down into that tank. It was really, really brightly lit, and it was. But I knew, you know, just be patient, give it a couple of weeks, and that would, you know, that's all it would take, and we'd be looking at that. So, again, I'm to the point where I almost need to add some light to this tank. It's an exciting fish, isn't it? So, we'll have a little look here at my 125 gallon tank. See my two loaches. You can tell that one's got those ridges. It's definitely still skinny. And I will be shooting a video specifically about my loaches. I'm not going to talk about it now. That's not the purpose of this video. I just kind of came in here to look around a little bit before I turned the lights out. I wanted to shoot some kind of video. And I know a lot of people like to have these just sort of casual chats and glimpses of my tank. While we're standing here, look at what we're getting to see. One of my chocolate zebra plecos is out. Again, sorry about all this glare. This isn't really, I didn't prepare for this. That is one of the 3 chocolate zebra plecos I have in this tank. But in regards to my loaches, I am going to talk about that. I do have some things that I want to discuss specifically about the issues I've had. I just lost a loach recently, and you can see that loach right there itself is skinny. And so I want to talk about my experience with the treatment and what happened with the loach and so on and so forth. So that will be an upcoming video. Make sure you're subscribed, and that way you won't miss that video or anything else, because you do never know what you're going to get with me. There's my rainbow shark. Again, if we can see through all the glare in there, there is a rainbow shark in there, I promise. And then, of course, we've got my rainbow fish, my angelfish, and there's my tenopoma. Of course, we've got a glare from a bucket in the background. A tenopoma has just been one of my favorite fish over the years. I really, really like it a lot. If you've got the space for it, I would really recommend getting one of them. They get a lot bigger than you probably think when you see them in the store. They're tiny little things when you see them in the store. This one is probably, I'm going to say, at least 7 inches, not counting the tail. And it's probably 1.5 inches thick. It's a lot of fish. So it's not only sizable, it lengthwise, it's a thick fish too. It's a lot of bioload. So if you are going to get one, I really wouldn't recommend anything smaller than maybe a 55. When you go to stores like PetSmart, they always way undersize their tanks. They'll have fish that are listed as getting 14 inches, and then it'll tell you minimum tank size is 35 gallons or something ridiculous like that for a 14-inch fish. So I don't know what they tell you that these tenopomas, because that's where I got this, was at PetSmart. I don't know what they tell you size tank wise that they should go in. My guess is PetSmart would probably say a 20 long or even a 40 gallon, I think, would be on the small side. But when I got it, it was in a 40, and I expected it to spend its life there, and it did spend about 2 years there, maybe even pushing 3 years. But it became apparent that the 40-gallon tank was just not enough tank for this fish, and I would even say a 55 would be a little on the small side. This is a 125-gallon tank, and so that's overkill. It certainly doesn't need all this tank, but I think a 40 would probably be a little on the small side if you are planning on getting one of these tenopomas. Really, really cool fish, though. I really recommend them. So anyway, that's it. I guess my last thoughts while I'm standing here is I've been looking at this over the last few days. The last water change I did, I got in there and I broke up a bunch of the green cyanobacteria that was growing on the bottom. And I used the gravel vac to sort of crunch in and smash it up, and you just break it up into little green pulp basically and vac it out of the tank. And that makes it look good for the time being, but it also makes it angry, and it comes back with a vengeance. And you can see even in the back underneath the filter, I'm starting to get a little bit of it growing. And what you can see on the glass is algae, because you can actually see all those little chewy line scrape marks from the pleco I have in this tank. I have a clown pleco that actually lives underneath of that rock right there. And so that's what we're seeing with all of the scrape marks on the glass. That's just algae. This green sheeting stuff we're seeing on the bottom is cyanobacteria, and so that's going to need to come out of there. I'm getting kind of tired of looking at it, and so we're going to be doing probably a chemi-clean treatment on that at some point. And this tank, I know to you, looks much more purpley red than it really does to me. That's more of a rusty color with maybe a little bit of a magenta tinge thrown into the rust, maybe a little bit of a purple tinge thrown into the rust. But what that really is, I know, again, I don't know why it comes out so purple looking on the camera. That's red cyanobacteria. You can see it growing in there all over the place, up in the corners and everything. So from time to time, I will get in this tank and do a good chemi-clean treatment as well. It's easy, it's cheap, and we'll talk about that in an upcoming video too. So go ahead and make sure you're subscribed, I'll say again. And I am going to leave you here with the final look at my waterfall tank. Not even sure where we started. I think we started looking at my 55-gallon tank. Again, this is just sort of a random end of the day kind of video. So thanks for watching, everybody. I'm going to get the lights turned out, call it a day, get this uploaded. So I hope you enjoyed that. Make sure you're subscribed, and don't forget this is my 40-gallon waterfall tank. So thanks again. I'll see you real soon.